Welcome to another episode of Logistics with Purpose. I'm your host, Enrique Alvarez, and of course, I have the pleasure of being here with my co-host, Kristi Porter, CMO of Vector Global Logistics. Kristi, how are you doing today?
I am really good. I am excited for this conversation. We've already been talking a little bit about it. This is actually our first recommendation from our head of human capital, which is also really exciting. And that tells you a little bit more about what we're going to be talking about, but it's a great topic for us. So luckily we get to be here and kind of dig into this on our own and then share it with our team and share it with our greater community. But yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. It's a very unique expertise. So we're here with Alan Barron, Wellbeing Manager at AON. Alan, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
No, before we started recording, we talked about the importance of what you do, and then also the fact that we really didn't even know that a position like yours existed. So it's going to be a good conversation, very timely as well. And again, before we started recording, Kristi, I think you made a really good point. Every day is important for mental health. I know that May is considered the month for mental health, but you're right. It should be every day. It is every day. And we'll probably learn a little bit more about Alan in a couple of more minutes.
Yes. And before we get into mental health, well-being, we will start you off a little slower, Alan. So to get you started, let's do some warm-up questions. Just respond with the first thing that comes to mind. So first question, what's one thing you do to stay productive?
Wow, that's a difficult question to answer. I think that I stay productive with a lot of things. For me, is to create a detailed to-do list at the beginning of each day. This helps me prioritize my tasks and stay focused on what needs to be accomplished. Maybe breaking down larger tasks into smaller, manageable steps also makes it easier for me.
I agree. And there is really no greater feeling than checking something off of a to-do list. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's very pleasant.
It is. I use the sauna, and when you hit a check mark, it does this little unicorn thing. It's so awesome.
Done.
Sometimes even if you do something that it's not on the to-do list, you put it on the to-do list.
You add it so you can,
immediately after that, you strike it.
I'm in there.
Yes.
I'm so there with you. Well, Alan, what's one thing you do to cheer yourself up?
I think we previously talked with Enrique about soccer, maybe doing some sports, I think. Listening also to my favorite music always cheers me up. And
what is your favorite music?
I'm currently a fan of Foo Fighters and also Coldplay, I think so. And this is my favorite band. Yes.
Okay, good.
And also I start on my days always hearing this music to cheer me up.
That's awesome. And Enrique will want to know, who's your favorite soccer team?
Well, I already went through this before we started recording, but please, for all our audience out there, Alan, who do you cheer for and who do you even play for?
I'm the biggest fan of a soccer team here in Mexico City that's called Pumas, los Pumas de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México here in Mexico.
Awesome. Very cool. And of course, this will be some great advice from a well-being professional. How do you clear your mind?
My profession gives me the tools to practice mindfulness and also meditation. Maybe taking a few minutes to focus on my breathing and being present in the moment helps me let go all the stress and the mental clutter. And additionally, engaging in physical activities like tennis, as I said before, with Enrique, or going for a run can also help me clear my mind and improve the overall well-being.
Good, thank you.
Cuerpo sano en mente sana, entonces.
Correcto.
Switching a little bit to Spanish there, but basically, I mean, physical fitness will give you also like some mental fitness or health benefits. Alan, so thank you very much for your answers. Now let's hear a little bit more about your background. Tell us a little bit more. Who are you when you were a little bit younger? Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
Well, I think my childhood was a great one. I grew in Mexico City. I am the youngest of three siblings, and my childhood was very good in many aspects. I had the opportunity to engage in many activities, both sports and musical. And although this didn't end well in the end, but I've done it and share them with my siblings. And I think those are some of my best memories. I think spending weekends with them doing what we've loved the most. And I think my childhood sets the or establish what we are going today.
For sure. And so is there something, maybe it's spending time with your siblings or something else that now you kind of look back and see like, oh, now I can see that mental health and well-being was something I always prioritized, whether I realized it or not?
Yes, of course. My parents do some of respect from our mental health. They involve us in a lot of activities in order to stay focused in one activity. Nowadays, I saw that these activities, all these sports and all the technicians develops a lot of skills for me in mental health. Basically in my person, and also I can contribute to my patients to lead with these previous acknowledgments.
Yeah.
So, Alan, there's no mystery that you're an expert and you have an incredibly strong academic background. You have a degree in clinical psychology from the UNAM, La Universidad Autónoma de México. Plus, you also have some specializations in cognitive behavioral therapy, neuropsychology, and neuroscience. Tell us a bit more about what motivated you to continue advancing your expertise, because your first degree was already incredibly impressive, motivated you to continue advancing in these specific areas.
Thank you. I have been motivated by gaining more knowledge and being able for face the continuous needs that arise. And mental health is something that is constantly advancing, I think, and within come new challenges and opportunities with my patients and also with my clients.
Absolutely. Yes. I feel like every year we continue to hear more and more about mental health and how important it is. And it's becoming less of a subject of stigma. So that's always really important. And of course, you're going into it with not just a clinical approach, but a scientific approach. And also just from working directly with patients and being able to have that one-to-one expertise as well. Well, you've built your career in organizations like Marsh McLennan, shouldn't have gotten a Spanish phrase here, but Universidad Salesiana.
Yes.
And
that was good. That was
okay. All
fairly
right.
okay.
All right. Thank you. And now AON. So you shifted from clinical work to human capital consulting and corporate well-being. First, tell us what, I know we discovered you through AON. So first tell us a little bit what AON is.
Yes, well, AON or Aon, it's the biggest broking company in the world. We set up all the risk consultation to all our clients. We establish a lot of or develop programs with medical insurance and also with another risk that the company may have as automotive or maybe industry. All that concerns all the insurance companies that needs to be done, Aon does for you.
Okay. All right. And then you were telling us a little bit before we joined that you made your shift during the pandemic. So I'm excited to hear more about this, but you did shift from clinical work to human capital and capital consulting and corporate well-being. So tell us a little bit about that journey and what is it that you love about this new focus?
Yes, where when I was in a university, the idea of working in consulting or wellness programs never crossed my mind. I think in 2015, when I was finished my degree, I remember having a meeting with my classmates and other people, including health professionals. We talked about various topics, including the burnout syndrome. However, I noticed that it was not common to have these kinds of conversations with people outside the health field. But one of the things I can take away from the COVID pandemic is my entry to this world. This was the relevance that the mental health gained for everyone. In fact, that was in the pandemics. The Mexican government established a legislation to cover the mental health programs in all the companies here in Mexico. And this is my shift or my entrance to this world, the clinical world and also the behavioral labor world.
I've been very impressed with just learning from our human capital team, who is based in Mexico. I've been very impressed with the things that the Mexican government has rolled out to continue to focus on the well-being of employees, the required sessions that you need to conduct to stay compliant. All that is incredibly impressive, and I hope that the U.S. and other countries will start to do some similar measures. So I love that you're on the forefront of that. And so what have been some of the, I guess, not to do with just compliance, but corporate well-being as well? What have you seen as some of the big shifts in the last couple of years coming out of the pandemic and into corporate well-being, where it's becoming more of a norm and not something that's completely out of the ordinary? What are some of the shifts and trends that you're seeing?
Well, I've seen a lot. I have the opportunity to work with a lot of industries, the logistics and also retail or maybe food companies. All of them has an enormous areas of growth. I think these companies or these industries have the opportunity to create or develop the well-being programs, including the mental health, because previous of the pandemics, these well-being programs stay focused only in the physical way or maybe in the nutritional. But after 2021, 2022, these companies or maybe a lot of companies establish policies about mental health programs and also develops some and other studies in their industry because there was no previous data about mental health in some
Well,
organizations or some industries.
yeah, this is something, and it's an area that's always been a little bit of a taboo, I think, right? And it's just slowly starting to come out as something that is critical and important. I would say even a competitive advantage for companies that have a good mental health plan and programs. Needless to say, Alan, you have designed several well-being strategies for national and multinational companies around the world. And before I ask you a couple of questions around that, just tell us, in your opinion, why is this important? Why companies should care and make this a priority? What's in it for them?
Well, companies, I think, should prioritize well-being strategies because the mental health of employees directly impacts productivity, also engagement, and overall organizational success. I think when employees feel supported and well valued, they are more likely to be motivated, perform better, and contribute positively to the company culture. I think this is the best or the main topic or for the organization, the culture about mental health programs or mental health culture. And additionally, addressing mental health proactively can reduce absenteeism, turnover rates, and healthcare costs. And in today's competitive business environment, fostering a healthy workplace is not just a moral obligation, but is a strategic advantage.
Absolutely. So, what can a company in general, and I will deep dive on this with Kristi in a second, but what can a company do to protect team members' mental health? I mean, what do you see at Aon and some other companies that works best?
I think to protect team members, we need to strive to develop some skills from the leaders, maybe the managers or maybe the directors of the companies. We need to create a supportive environment and we need to encourage open communications about mental health and provide resources such as the EAP programs and access to mental health professionals. I think also to promote the work-life balance and maybe implement some flexible working hours, work from home, and encourage regular breaks to prevent burnout syndrome. And also offer training and education for managers who does not see the signs of the mental health problems or issues and how to support their teammates effectively.
And that's very important, right? Because as you say, I mean, it's if you don't, if you sit with someone and you talk about these things, everyone's going to say, I agree. Right? Everyone's going to agree to those things. But when you're working and you have employees underneath you or you have a boss above you, you still have to get the job done. And so it feels like this is a little bit of a double standard in our society today, because we all think that this is great and we have to do it. But then when it comes to really making things happen, a lot of people just simply go over it and say, well, yes, this is important, but right now I need this report by tomorrow. I don't really care.
Yes.
So how you said communication, which is very interesting. And then also you also said if managers or people that are working with other people don't realize what's going on, how can you identify what are some of the symptoms of the burnout syndrome that you mentioned?
Yes, typically these symptoms are not as clear as a glass of water. Maybe we can see these behaviors through absenteeism. It's clear when the employee needs to get times out of the office. Maybe he gets into the office late. Maybe he's a little bit, I don't know, stay out of focus, or maybe we can establish a lot of violent behavior between teammates. There's the clear symptoms that the employee is it's almost a breakdown, or maybe are experiencing symptoms like depression or maybe anxiety that establish the previous stages to burnout syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah. Before I move on, I also want to ask you, we are a remote first environment. Prior to the pandemic, many companies became remote first or hybrid after the pandemic. So it's hard enough to manage people in person. Then you add in topics like this. You're also having to manage well-being. Then you're trying to look for symptoms when maybe most of your communication is via email or text or, video chat, but cameras aren't turned on. So then a manager's also trying to not make assumptions, but be perceptive. So also talk about remote environments and what managers can do to both lead well and to look after their teammates.
Well, and this is why the employee assistance programs are the main tool for managers to create this supportive environment. Because when the manager or the responsible of the team knows the tools to thrive through the mental health well practices, they need to be expressed to their teammates. And also in these hybrid models in the office, we need to establish not a meeting, but an environment to talk about freely about their emotions, and also their thoughts about the activities that they have done all the week. This is the main tool that the managers needs to be done or they're developed.
Thank you.
Because it comes back to your point, and you're probably working in one of the companies that are in the front line when it comes to well-being. Because again, even your own title, I don't think that a lot of companies have a position that do what you do. So that speaks very, very highly of your company. But it sounds like you have to work at many different levels to convince this, right? Because you can't just simply expect employees to be open about how they're feeling, because that's just not the way we have been managing work since forever.
Yes.
How do you build that trust? Because at the end of the day, we can give these opportunities to the employees, and I'm pretty certain that at least for most companies, employees are not going to volunteer that they're overworked or about to burn out or that they're stressed or anxious, because we see it as a weakness as opposed to a condition. How do we change this, right? Including with me and you and Kristi and everyone that's listening to us. What do we need to do ourselves to understand this burnout syndrome better?
Yes, I think to develop trust in our teammates needs to be building every day. And this trust, it needs to be in the base on all the organization. That was the importance to establish policies about mental health or policies about the well-being programs in the industry or the company. This is the base. And also for team leaders, it needs to be when a colleague or an employee talks with them about their emotions and also their thoughts, or maybe a few topics for the company, they need to develop a confidential line or a confidential conversation with the colleague. This is the very first step.
Thank you. Well, you've not only had experience across the entire spectrum, but you've also led over 200 mental health workshops, which is a lot. So you have a wealth of experience. So let's talk specifically within the logistics and supply chain industry. Based on your observations, again, there was kind of like a pre-pandemic industry and then a post-pandemic industry. And so now, of course, we're living through a whole new reality with the tariffs and things. So what mental health topics and issues have you seen that tend to emerge in logistics and supply chain professionals?
Well, it's a very good question, and it's also super interesting because mental health in the logistics and supply chain is growing with the concern with these own unique challenges that can significantly impact mental well-being. And this industry often faces high stress and pressure due to tight deadlines, complex problem solving, and long hours, which can lead to issues such as burnout syndrome or maybe anxiety disorders or maybe depression. I think the high stress and the pressure in the employees that have or develops in roles such as project managers, the logistics coordinators, the truck drivers maybe, they deal with the tight deadlines and the high pressure situations. This constant stress can foster burnout if it's not properly managed.
And can we also, before we move on, just from your clinical opinion, can you also just give us some overview or definition of burnout, anxiety, depression? Because I think those have also become such common words that we may not tend to know the right definitions that go with them. Or if you say burnout, that's something everybody's like, oh, I'm always burnt out. It's a very common thing. So if you would give us the more clinical definitions and symptoms associated, that would probably be helpful.
Yeah, gladly. For example, anxiety, the term of anxiety, it's an emotion. It's not bad that a person experiences anxiety because anxiety gives the tools to all the people to solve problems, maybe contemplate a few problems that the persons have in the future. Anxiety does that for the person. They protect all the persons in order to do some things. But when we talk about disorders, about anxiety, is that the person has all the time automatic thoughts about a warning in their environment. Maybe an email, maybe a phone call, maybe stay out of the office are expressing anxiety in the person. But it's not a real danger for the people, anxiety disorders. And also depression is a clinical expression it's very complex to define a depression briefly, but depression also establish a badly symptoms of sadness, maybe a loneliness, maybe we have a little bit problems about this.
Well, before we move a little bit further into this, let's make sure that we all have the correct definitions because sometimes we make assumptions, which isn't good, and you're our professional here. So, and if people, I feel like, tend to throw around the word burnt out, we all say we're burnt out at one time or another, but let's look at the clinical definitions from your perspective. So if you could give us anxiety, depression, and burnout from an actual clinical definition, I think that would be super helpful.
Yeah, gladly. Well, let me explain this. Anxiety, the isolated word of anxiety, it's an emotion. Anxiety is a feeling of worry, maybe nervousness, or and maybe unease about something with an uncertain outcome. It is normal and often it is a healthy emotion. But when a person regularly feels disproportionate levels of anxiety, it might become a medical disorder. Anxiety disorders can include maybe generalized anxiety disorders, panic disorders, social anxiety disorders, and various phobia-related disorders. But in isolated anxiety, it's a feeling or an emotion. When we are talking about a disorders, this is when a person has a lot of intrusive thoughts or maybe an intrusive emotions they feel or they are experiencing an disorder of anxiety.
Okay.
And also, depression is a common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. It causes feelings of sadness and or loss or the interest in activities once enjoyed. It can lead, to a variety of emotional and also physical problems. Can decrease the person's ability to function at work. And burnout, it's the main topic of all the companies, I think. The burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by an excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands of your.
And so, if I understood this correctly, then some of these burnt out and the stress generated from that can then also lead to the anxiety and depression. So it doesn't have to be one following the other. It could be in either direction, right? You can experience anxiety and depression first, and then that will give you more burnout, or no? Is it first one, then the other? Or?
Yes, maybe all the previous symptoms of burnout are anxiety problems. Maybe when we meet with the patient, we need to establish all the symptoms about or their feeling, and also can mislead to a diagnosis. Maybe we can establish anxiety problems, but the person has developing a burnout syndrome. Maybe we can talk about the same symptoms, but the time that they present and also the level of these emotions are a key sign.
Well, and you mentioned before, Alan, about the supply chain and how stressful the supply chain and logistics in particular is, because you have like the expedited services and 24/7 operations and valuable cargo and deadlines and just long hours. So I have a two-part question for you. Is there any difference as of this particular industry affecting someone's mental health compared to other industries? And then probably more importantly, if you are a supply chain logistics provider or work in this industry, our industry, is there something simple that you can do to reduce the stress kind of built up by this industry? There's something you can do to reduce all these different symptoms on a daily basis, or something that you individually, without the need of a whole department, can do to help yourself?
Yes, about all the logistics industry and the supply chain industry, maybe it's one of the top industries that has a lot of burnout syndromes and a lot of employees that may set the symptoms of depressions and the anxiety because all the activities. Maybe the main topic we're talking about is the isolation that a worker is propense. Also, the irregular hours, shifting their works, and also the physical demands and the impact on job performance are the main topics that the logistics has to focus in these stages to prevent all these illnesses. And also these actionable practices are the effective strategies to address these challenges, to promote, as I said before, the open communication, encourage discussions about mental health, and provide resources such as the employee assistance programs, implement these work policies. I said this before because not all the companies had a policy about a mental health foster program, and also they provide trainings or open discussions. Maybe the empathy and the compassion is crucial to demonstrate how your companies care about your employees.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I think back to what we were talking about earlier, trust and then open communication, two super important factors in that. So I have so many questions, but let me start with, so thank you for earlier also defining these. People may resonate with some of the topics or one more than another. We don't want people to play Dr. Google. So at what point does somebody say, what either symptoms to look out for, or if they do just have like a feeling what you're saying may be accurate to me, when should somebody go ask for help, whether that's to their human capital or employee assistance program or a medical provider? But at what stage should somebody raise their hand and say, I think I need to talk to somebody outside my immediate self or family?
Yes, well, this is also a great question. What works best is the holistic approach that combines and the strategies about the companies and also the strategies with the employees. Maybe if you are experiencing some lack of interest in what activities, in your activities or in your family, lack of I don't know, maybe lack of opportunities to develop conversations with someone, and maybe if you feel stressed out, but not only in the working hours, maybe in your weekends or in your resting times, maybe this is the main symptom that you need to be focused, because these silent symptoms, if they can develop these disorders like anxiety or depression, as we previously talked about it. And also with the families, we need to establish a network about how to address these to my husband or maybe my wife. I don't know, my kids, because the family is those who are looking for the best of the person, and also they can identify these problems. That's why the EAP programs are developed to the colleagues or the employees and also their families they can communicate and report and also give some some address to these persons.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Adding the family is definitely important. And didn't think of that.
Yeah. It's an entire support system.
Maybe changing gears a little bit here, but it's fascinating talking to you, not only because of everything that you know about this, but then also because you actually have the position you have. So I was a little bit curious about what's a day to day in your life. I mean, how do you just sit and wait for people to call you and say, hey, I'm suffering this? I'm sure that's not the case. But so walk us through one of your day to day activities being kind of leading this very, very important department at your company.
Yes, of course, we need to, as the leader of my team here in Aon, we need to do some things to be in the well-being. In my day to day, I need to contribute to my team, asking them how they are in the day, maybe ask another topics, not around the work, maybe around their families, how they feel. And also with this information, I can set the days or the task to be done in the day. So I need to start my routine with daily care for myself and also for my family, for my pets. It's basic
Wow.
to establish a well-being day. I think so.
It's amazing that you said that because again, I'm learning a lot of things during this conversation with you today, but you have to be okay with yourself first, and you mention it. So you have to address your own mental health before you can even help everyone else. And it sounded to me that there's no magic one here. You just have to spend the time to get to know your coworkers better, your team better. You ask them about their families, you ask them about their pets, you ask them about their life, which might sound very obvious, but I think that people just forget about that, right? I mean, we're working, 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 and we forget that, well, I don't even know who this guy's his brothers, sisters, mom, maybe someone is sick in the family, maybe I'm worried about the son or the daughter in school, or the daughter's not having good grades. That is key, right? Is that kind of like very simple things that we should all do regardless of your position in your company, just get to know each other better? Would that help?
Yes, and it's not that obvious. I saw every day with my coworkers and also with a lot of people. It's not talking bad about them, because in all the industries, this I don't know, all the companies are speeding as light. No? I think, and also we need to stop in a few minutes, talk about myself, talk about my emotions, my feelings, but it's not, it need to be done in the day to day. No, and it's not a glimpse of your day. No, maybe you can establish this to your co-workers and maybe with all your teammates.
Absolutely. It's simple, but it's hard at the same time. So yes, thank you. And thank you for that. This has all been so helpful. We are launching this episode during Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's great to reflect on the importance, mental health, well-being. We're trying to make a bigger deal of it this year at Vector, and shout out to our own human capital team who brought you on as our guest. So Ale Loreto, Brian Obregon, Paula Garcia. We are just grateful for them and all they do for us, and grateful for the introduction to you. This is a really important conversation for us to have internally in our own teams, and hopefully more logistics professionals and companies will start to implement these practices as well. And even if not as companies, which we hope, then hopefully individuals will start to take notice and take some of these small steps themselves. But I guess as we sort of wrap up here, I want to ask you, from your perspective, you've clearly met with and dealt with lots of companies, lots of individuals. From your perspective, how can companies across any industry lead with purpose and make mental health not just a priority for Mental Health Awareness Month, but a lasting part of their culture?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And this, I think that we need to establish an accessible treatment or accessible tools for all our employees. It's crucial to demonstrate empathy and compassion for people who are struggling with mental health issues. And understanding and accepting attitudes can go a long way in making others feel understood and accepted. Maybe with this change of or switching our minds to cope with all the problems that we may have, and also reducing the hurdles that stigmatization causes by making mental health care more inexpensive and accessible. I think people are more inclined to seek assistance when they can easily receive treatment without worrying about being subjected to discrimination, I suppose.
Yeah,
absolutely.
very
So,
important.
Alan, all our listeners will definitely benefit from this conversation in this interview. Before I kind of ask you to give us your contact info or how our listeners can contact you or some of the other links that might be helpful for them, do you have anything to say to our audience? Any last call of action if you had to give them some additional words of wisdom? Anything to them before we wrap up the interview?
Well, I think only thank you for hearing our conversation. I hope that this information can be better for you. And also, if you are experiencing some of these feelings of loneliness and exacerbate every day, please contact a professional to can help you with all the symptoms. You are not alone in this. Maybe a doctor, maybe with a psychologist, maybe with your human resources area, that you can talk with them and establish a program or establish a to-do list to achieve a very good mental health every day.
Alan, thank you so much. How can our listeners connect with you?
Well, I think social media can lead with me. Maybe in LinkedIn, you can search me in LinkedIn like Alan Barron Angeles. And also with my Instagram and also the X social media, you can try me Alan Barron Angeles.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. This is an important conversation. I know we both learned a lot and look forward to taking this back to our team and putting this into our practice and our daily lives as well as we continue to be better leaders, better humans, and better employees. And thank you so much for all the just amazing work that you're doing with companies around the globe, Alan. We really appreciate it. And listeners, we appreciate you so much. And if you enjoyed this conversation, then join us again in 2 weeks. That episode didn't start out as a mental health topic, but kind of ended up there. So I'll give you a little bit of a sneak preview there, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.